and welcome to Mission Karnataka. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been talking about issues of interest in this fascinating Karnataka elections. There's been talk about caste, corruption, communalism. It's been a very fervent campaign and sometimes a rather bitter campaign as well. How have these issues resonated with the urban professional Bengalurian? Now, we're with a group of people who have helped to make the city the startup capital of India and are helped keeping it the startup capital of India. And let's get their views on what this Karnataka election has been like so far. Now, you've been following some of the campaign thing, the allegations, has there been anything about the campaign that has resonated with you, which you feel, yeah, this makes sense?
So one thing I would like to mention is the pervasiveness of social media within this campaign.
Okay.
I think in the last couple of elections that has happened in the national level, we've seen how the campaign has actually made use of social media to make sure that their manifesto and their offerings are sort of reached to the masses, right? So in this election also, I've seen the same case where I've been added to multiple WhatsApp groups. And then, I've seen people use WhatsApp as a media for propaganda as well. So within this media, we are seeing that there are lots of memes and lots of videos that are shared where you get to know about all the absurd things that the politicians do tell and all the blame game that's happening. I think that's one of the important thing that has happened in this election.
It's been huge, this election. I think
Exactly.
social media has been used really like never before.
Exactly.
It's amazing. And the minute a rally is over, you'll have a sharp, funny, sarcastic or bitter tweet from the other side. Like you kind of wait, okay, what are they going to say about this? Yes.
Hashtags see on Twitter are very different this time, and also it's difficult to differentiate between right and wrong that comes to you on WhatsApp as well. That's also has been a challenge this time.
With politics, it's right if it's your party, it's wrong if it's the other party. I mean, that is the standard definition, really.
Right.
Anything which has caught your interest in particular, any particular social media, WhatsApp which you've got or anything like that?
I don't understand Kannada, but I get a lot of these memes that happen and properly created memes that come to us, and I think that's something that I've seen for the first time in so many numbers this time.
Yes, absolutely. It has been huge. Now, when the politicians stand there and they talk about caste, issues like the Lingayat divide, issues like Vokkaligas, issues like Kuruvas, does it resonate with you at all? Do you feel, or does it just doesn't concern you at all?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think caste is something, it's an issue that should not be a political issue at all. It's something that was, a problem many years ago, given that some areas in India still suffer from that, from the divide. But to have political leanings and political affiliations based on caste is just ludicrous in this day and age. What we should instead be looking at is how do we help improve the lives of the impoverished, how do we uplift them, rather than, pitting one against the other. It makes no sense.
So, does it amaze you really when you see all of this talk about caste calculations and so many 17% Lingayats, 15%? It just doesn't resonate with you at all.
The thoroughness with which they do it is inspiring, but I wish that those brains and that level of talent could instead be used to figure out how many are below the poverty line and how much money can be allocated to public works that you can help those people.
What about you? Do you think it's
It's actually really sad that they're bringing in these kind of issues into something that, if you look at what a Bangalorean is defined as, we're some of the most accepting people out there, and that's why we got everybody into our city, and for good and for bad reasons, And when you think about startups, and all of us are running businesses over here and doing our thing, it's brought in a lot of people, and we're accepting everybody. So why is this elections about where you're from and who you're about, which group you're from? It's very sad that's happening. My parents are half North Indian, half South Indian. They met in college over here, and I'm Bangalore, and and that's why I'm sitting around. And there's so many of us who are like this, who are completely accepting of every race. And Bangalore should be like that. So if they're segregating it during these elections for the purpose of votes, I don't think that's correct.
I've heard the politicians say that caste, yes, in Bengaluru it may not be an issue, it's not an issue, but that it is an issue. Are we being romantic when we think that caste doesn't count?
it does not count in an urban Karnataka when you say, but when you go to the rural sides, the hardcore rural Karnataka, there may be sort of a connect over there, because the issues what rural Karnataka faces is completely different from what urban Karnataka is facing, which is, yes, Bangalore in particular. And you can't, politicians, for sake of how they've been doing it, to my conscience says that you should not count caste. Yeah. But will it on ground reality work like that? Okay. It doesn't really work like that. It's a matter of fact.
It's like a romantic thought, thinking, we don't care about caste, but it's a reality.
Sort of.
I'd like to disagree with that point, talking about how for urban voters, caste is not important. While we sit here and debate these issues, we also need to realize that we're probably the 10% of privileged, educated class that is sitting here understanding the issues, maybe going through manifestos, understanding what really is important. But we need to realize that a large percentage of the voting population is also old Bangaloreans, people who've been here forever, people for whom, caste is probably important, and this Lingayat vote is going to be divided.
Having said that, I think for us in Bangalore, what matters is the hyper-local issues, what we define. Like the road next to my house, is it good or bad?
Yes.
What is interesting...
When will the metro finish?
Exactly. What is interesting in the manifesto is when each of the parties says, I'll create 1.2 or 2 million jobs, not realizing it is us as startups and the corporates, so that we are creating those jobs. We are the job creators.
You are the job creators.
And I would be very happy if they actually cater to our hyper-local issues, take care of the roads and the metro, as you said, and then thumbs up votes will go to them, hopefully.
City issues. Civic issues should actually resonate, because the other, after caste, communalism has been an issue, which especially in, say, coastal Karnataka has been, there has been Karnataka, we like to pride ourselves on being a very accommodating, like you mentioned, accommodating, peaceful state, but communalism, is it an issue? Is it an issue at all? Does it resonate with you at all when people talk about the threat to one society, Tipu Sultan's birthday celebration, or on the other hand, the suppression of... Does it resonate with you at all?
So, I'm a religious, but my family is very Hindu. So, whenever such thing happen, my dadi, for example, she champions the whole thing, whereas I have a tiff with her that, look, this is not right and this is not wrong. So, essentially, I think for votes, ultimately, it's mostly the old people who go out and vote, and for that, it really works.
Old people being no doubt those over 40.
I would say for the uplift, for the continuity of Bangalore to be the startup capital, and for this to be not just a good weather state, but also a very peaceful kind of a city, we need all the 3-4 religions. Like in my company, I have people from all religions, right? And I can never even think or afford that on the road in front there's some sort of a clash created because of elections or otherwise. So I have my fingers crossed that these are not issues as he rightly said.
But it's just something which they're trying to fan for the sake of your dadi's vote.
I would just want that kind of impetus that, for example, Goa government is giving. For example, the Andhra government is giving, the Telangana government is giving for creating a K-hub. I think somebody rightly coined that term. I read it compared to T-hub. Now we have a K-hub. I'm hoping that it gets realized in the next 4 or 5 years, because that would really see Bangalore be the true Silicon Valley of India.
Now, we've talked about caste, we've talked about communalism. The other C, corruption. Is corruption, do you think about it? Do you think it's a part of life? It's like, or when they're pointing fingers at each other saying, your leader's corrupt, no, your leader's more corrupt.
You set aside 10% for
I think it's a very valid issue, corruption. And if you see that, we know it's there, right? It's only a matter of degree of how much corrupt each person is, and that's what we should look at, right? And if you look at the election per se itself, and the kind of corruption that happens within the election, you've seen a lot of examples, right? So within this corruption itself, there is always the blame game that happens between the parties, right?
Do the parties, does it matter in the sense, like, when you talk about corruption, the party's answer is often, but they're corrupt too. It's not like as if we're not. They've also done it. Does corruption matter to you as an issue?
I think the word corruption could also lead to something like delays in certain projects, which matter to me. I mean, if the road is blocked and the flyover is under construction for 4 years, it matters to me as an urban Bangalorean.
Because corruption is there in every
because I mean that's where the corruption is. I mean, there's a metro that's being built for 6-7 years. That really matters to me. So corruption does matter to me.
The way it impacts in terms of project. Does corruption matter to you when they say that so-and-so is these cases against him in the illegal mining, this person has a land dispute. Does that matter to you?
In terms of me making
for
a
you,
vote?
yes, for you making a vote.
No, it doesn't. The reason being because everybody's literally the same, and we have this universal attitude of just accepting things the way they are, and that's again super sad.
Yes, it is sad,
It's
yes.
really depressing because you can't have good governance simply because of the way the system's been built over the past 10, 20 years. Look at the number of problems that have been inherited from one government to the next, to the next, to the next. Do you see any of them being fixed? You don't. So if you have to set up a new business or a new project, or you're trying to bring in new talent over there, you're going to have to grease the palms at so many levels. And it's an attitude problem. And I work in behavior change. I would love to change behavior, but it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. It's not easy. And imagine if it's not easy for us, how hard is it going to be for a political party to actually pull that off?
Absolutely. The corruption that is there in the system, do those allegations matter to you, or is it just another headline in the paper?
So, to me, yes, definitely just another headline in the paper. It's something that
Or on television.
Or on television, absolutely, or on social media. I mean, all forms of media now. The issue is, I mean, when it comes to corruption, how it hits me personally when it comes to the elections is that it dissuades me and it gives me a disincentive to vote.
Okay, all right. So it does affect your voting in the sense it affects voting in that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I know that certain political parties, and let's face it, all of them do it, are buying political votes from from people.
We shouldn't be surprised that there is corruption in our elections. With the size of our bureaucracy, the size of our democracy is so big. I mean, it's only expected. But the problem is the subversion of instruments that have been instituted to check corruption, like the RTI Act, for example. I think this BJP government has had the worst track record in terms of responses to RTI. The institution of Lokayuktas, for example. All of these institutions are being subverted. So we actually don't know how bad the corruption is. So it allows parties to claim that we've had the lowest corruption in years, because you just don't hear about the scams. There's no way to unearth it. Yeah.
I guess corruption is at two levels. Let's say take the high level corruption like the mining scam, the 2G, 3G, etc.
Thousands of crores, yeah.
As a voter, as common people, how does that impact me? One, versus I walk into a government office and I need to do some amendments there. I have some requests to be done at the government office. Am I able to get my work done there at a point in one window? That doesn't happen. And for every common voter, I guess that matters a lot. When you start doing something different there, I guess, the grassroots corruption has to be addressed first before you're addressing the larger ones, because those larger ones are going to be there for a long, long time. It's not party to party.
So the scale of corruption, the thousands of crores may not apparently impact you, although of course it does in many ways, but the small scale corruption is your daily life. Yes. Well, caste, communalism, corruption, we've discussed whether it matters, whether it doesn't matter, and how it does in fact impact voting patterns. After a short break, we'll be back with more with this set of startup heroes of Bengaluru.